Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. And far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. That was what Justice Samuel Alito wrote Friday in a vote of 6-3 to overturn Roe v. Wade, giving the decision back to the states. So what exactly does this ruling from the Supreme Court mean? What effects could the long-lasting effects be of this judgment? Joining me right now to break it all down is Cedarville University's director of the Center for Political Studies, Dr. Mark Caleb Smith. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
We know some of the states with trigger laws have already gone into effect. What happens next for those states?
Yeah, those states have already changed their law, and there are a few states that are also going to make these changes, I think, relatively soon. And then we've seen about 20 states in the District of Columbia move to protect abortion in pretty significant ways. And so I think that leaves about 15 states that are sort of out there with their policies still yet to be determined. And so it'll be interesting, I think, to see how those 15 states decide in light of this, because most of the others already had their policies well in place. These other 15 will be reacting to this changing environment, which has been pretty radically changed since Friday.
What do you think about the president's speech when he called on Congress to act to codify Roe v. Wade and make abortion legal? Because if Democrats already had the votes, they would have already done that, right?
Yeah, I think so. The president would have, I think they would have done it if they had the votes. It's unlikely they're going to have the kind of support, especially in the Senate, to actually make those kinds of changes. He can do other things potentially, but I think from the federal level, he's pretty limited. Right now, the game is really at the state level instead.
From a strategic standpoint, will this be the Democrats' #1 issue going into the midterm, since they can't really talk about the economy at this point?
Yeah, I think that it probably has to be. You know, when we look at the overall political climate, it's been favoring Republicans pretty dramatically. In a typical midterm election, in the president's first term, we'd expect the minority party to pick up seats. But maybe this decision will change some things around. The Democrats will try to use it to make their base passionate and active. And maybe it'll make some people make some changes in their thinking. But they're going to use the issue. As you said, the economy really isn't working well for them. Maybe this one will change it somewhat. Will it be enough to really affect what we've been looking at so far? I think within the next 2 weeks to 4 weeks, we'll have a better sense of that.
And we just did a story this morning that the Associated Press is reporting that the Republican Party has 1 million new voters now. 1 million people have shifted now to the Republican Party. What do you attribute to that?
I honestly think it's because of the fairly radical nature of the Democratic Party over the last several years. The party's drifted pretty hard toward the left on a variety of progressive issues. I would think something like transgenderism would be part of that. And I think also the party's fairly radical position on abortion is part of that as well. We're looking at that in some of the response to this decision on Friday, where Democratic politicians are unwilling to allow really for any exceptions or limitations on abortion for the most part. And so I think as that party has shifted left, the Republican Party has benefited. And now we throw this decision in the middle of this. It'll be interesting to see how it affects the trends.
And as you mentioned, President Biden has vowed to do whatever he needs to do for states that have those trigger laws enacted. But what can the president do as it pertains to the states, specifically those 13 states where the laws now are stronger to protect the unborn baby?
The most potent thing he can do, I think, is use his powers as executive in chief. In other words, can he use the federal agencies in a way to potentially benefit people in those states that are trying to ban the procedure? So think of something like the Department of Defense. You know, they run military facilities, some of them in these deep red states. Will they make abortion available in military facilities? Will they sort of contravene state law as a result of that? The Department of Justice is already making some noise about protecting the ability of women to receive medications in the mail that can effectively create an abortion. If they can continue to do those things, then maybe they will be able to impact even the red states. But as you might imagine, some of this stuff is going to have to be litigated. There will be challenges, and we'll see how the courts weigh it.
Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin said after the decision, quote, "The Supreme Court of the United States has rightfully returned power to the people and their elected representatives, in the states. I'm proud to be a pro-life governor and plan to take every action I can to protect life. It's interesting because Virginia is a state where there are some strong laws for abortion. Do you think most people even know what the laws are in their own individual states? And what about these governors who embrace the Supreme Court's ruling? How hard is the process to make abortion illegal on a state level?
I think you raised a couple of really interesting points. I mean, people have strong opinions about abortion sort of as an abstract idea, but I think most of them probably have relatively knowledge about what their state laws actually are on abortion. Well, I'm guessing that's changed over the last several days. People are becoming more informed about it and therefore hopefully more aware. I think governors like Youngkin are really in an interesting position. You could say the same thing about Kemp in Georgia and DeSantis in Florida. These are states that don't necessarily have the clearest, strongest laws on abortion. Those are conservative governors on the whole. Will they be able to lean into it and get political advantage out of this? On the other hand, we are seeing some Republican governors in places like Maryland and Massachusetts and Vermont who are working to protect abortion rights to some extent, or at least they're not getting in the way of those who are seeking to protect abortion rights. So the Republican Party has a little bit more diversity on this issue, I think, than most people think.
I agree. All right, Dr. Mark Caleb Smith, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.